Welcome back to Split Decision. This week on episode 6, we'll be recapping UFC London, sliding into a preview of UFC 291, giving you our top 5 most badass people, and more. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Alright, so let's recap UFC London from this past weekend. It was an okay card. Wasn't the worst card I've ever seen. Wasn't the most exciting card. Had some very good moments in it. The crowd was kind of lackluster. It has a few people thinking they might have oversaturated the market. They're doing too many in London right now. Maybe need to kick back to one a year. But entertaining card. The main event, Tom Aspinall, Marcin Tybura. What a performance from Tom Aspinall. He's coming off that injury, and he looked great. He put on a show, put on a performance that honestly has him looking like maybe, not counting John Jones, but maybe the best heavyweight out there.
Yeah, I'd say I guess to put your words a little bit finer, he's the best contender out there, I'd say.
I mean, he looked so good. Being that big, he moved on his feet great. He was quick. He was obviously just another level than Tybura, who is an older guy. He's been around for a while, but I mean, it was obvious the difference between the two.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had to question on the kind of preview for the card, is wondering if Tybura could still go at 37 against somebody Aspinall's age. And I mean, while it didn't really play a factor at all, Aspinall just kind of slept him early on, and just.
One thing I love is the first strike that Aspinall threw was he threw a head kick from the leg that got hurt, kind of just to set a tone, and he landed it.
Yeah, hey, I'm not worried about what you.
I think that was more as much for him as it was for everybody else. Like, all right, we got this. And then after that, I mean, he just blitzed him. Nothing Tybura could do. Knocked him down on the feet. Couple shots ground and pound. Easy victory for Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, it was a very, very clean fight. I think he gets one of his call-outs in the future. He wants to fight John Jones. John Jones actually responded, John
Jones got all weird and emotional about it.
Yeah, so that's his typical.
I think Aspinall responded with, John, chill out, mate.
Right. It's exciting. I like it. And moving on to Molly McCann versus Julija Stoliarenko.
The co-main event.
I think we had the biggest upset of the night here. I'm a big fan of Molly McCann. I know you are as well. I mean, this just hurts.
Yeah, it was a big upset on the according to Vegas and the odds and everything. But if you watched the fight and you knew nothing about either one of them, I don't think you would think of it as an upset. Stoliarenko, she was faster. She was better on the feet, honestly, than Molly, which was surprising. And then once she took her down, it was kind of over from there.
Yeah, I mean, there was one takedown, one submission attempt. We said last time that McCann got submitted and she would look to, kind of recover from that. She couldn't do it here. She did, since the loss, announce that she was going to be moving to the lower weight class, dropping down.
Should be good for her, but
she needs to work on wrestling, man. She has to be able.
Jiu-jitsu. She needs some submission defense.
Defense, if anything. She needs some defense. But look, we're not sleeping on Molly McCann. We're gonna keep watching her. We're gonna watch her grow.
Still one of my favorites.
Right.
All right. So the next fight on the card, maybe the fight of the night, maybe one of the most entertaining fights of the night. Nathaniel the Prospect Wood, Andre Touchy-Feely. It ended up going to a decision, and Wood won 2-1, but man, this was a war between the two guys. Each dropped each other. Each were hurt. It looked like each one of them had the finish at one point, just back and forth.
Yeah, dude, look, there was, honestly, one of the things I think tilted it in Wood's favor was the takedown. I know they dropped each other. That kind of evens out. They both got hurt. They both got rocked. But the takedown for Wood, to couple with the significant strikes and kind of doing more damage throughout.
I think the damage was probably pretty equal. It was just came down to, they each got a round for him. The second round, obviously for Feely, because he had the big shot, dropped him, almost finished it. And the other 2 rounds, while they were close, I think you could easily Not easily, but I think you would score him just as the judges did for Wood. I had it 29-28 Wood. All three judges also had it 29-28. It's rare that everybody kind of agrees with how the fight goes. But
Especially in a card where, where previously there was a kind of questionable call.
exactly. But a nice win for Wood. He keeps moving on. So just overall, like I said, probably the fight of the night.
Yeah, that brings him to 20-5. So with his next opportunity, it really goes to show what he's going to try to do. He won another one by decision. He's got to start finishing some fights if he wants to contend, though. Next up, we had Paul Craig making his debut at middleweight, facing Andre Muniz. He pretty much did everything I wanted him to do here. He got another finish with his elbows. He didn't have the guy wrapped up with a dislocated arm, but
yeah, it was a nice way to. He was coming into this fight 2 losses in a row, moved down a weight class, so it was definitely a nice showing from Paul Craig. Got the TKO ground and pound. So now all 9 of his UFC wins, all by finish. So he's the guy. He doesn't really go. If he goes to scorecard, it's not good news for him. But yeah, he's going to be ranked in middleweight now, a new division. Muniz was 14th, so Paul Craig should take that spot. He said in the post-fight, he's open to fighting both at 205 because he does have 2 wins against top 5 guys at 205 and still at 185. I mean, he looked good. He said he came in 27 pounds heavier on fight night than on weigh-in day, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. And
it's a good advantage to have.
Looking at the fight, when you rewatch it through both rounds, this fight ended almost at the end of the second round.
Yeah, like the last minute. I mean, honestly, Muniz was getting some shots and he was hitting them pretty good.
Right, and the takedowns.
Some good ground and pound. But what really fucked him, he was in position. Probably he won the first round, I think. He was probably winning the second round on top on the ground. And he had just a flagrant and dumb headbutt that made the ref stop the fight and put him back to their feet.
Right, yeah, I don't know if it was an intentional headbutt or what.
It looked pretty intentional.
It did, but it could have just been one of those things where
you're in the moment. Yeah.
Right. You think you're kind of, they push their heads up against him. I know it's not what he thought, but in the moment you're like, oh, maybe I'm close enough. I'll just hit him in the chest.
But that was a huge turning point because they went up,
and Craig didn't seem very happy with them going up either. He likes being on his back.
With you in his guard. But as soon as they stood up, it wasn't too much longer where Craig took him down, and then from there the finish led. Almost got the Darce choke, ended up finishing him TKO with that, like you said, elbows, punches. But a nice win from Paul Craig. Really a good way to stop the losing streak, establish yourself as a ranked guy in a new division. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's exciting to see him be great across 2 divisions.
Such a likable guy, too. All right, so the next fight on the card was Jai, the Black Country Banger Herbert, versus Fares, the Smile Killer Ziam?
I think they said Ziam a bunch. I wasn't expecting that.
A very technical fight on the feet. Both guys hitting each other. A lot in the clinch. Ziam won the fight. All 3 judges gave him the fight. 2 judges, 29-28, 1 30-27. I had it 29-28, Ziam. I had him winning the first 2 rounds. Herbert kind of came alive a little bit more in the 3rd round. But overall, pretty good fight. Very competitive fight. It was definitely a hard one to score. Like I said, both guys were exchanging. Both guys were hitting each other. But yeah, I had Ziam winning the fight. What do you think?
I agree there. Ziam, he definitely won the fight. It was more about, more significant strikes. He had a takedown, which, in
the second round.
Right, in a less than, I don't want to say exciting, but in a less than, exhilarating fight, where they're not just standing up banging, you can't kind of tell where the judges are going to get it. In a round where you can get a takedown.
It was big because Herbert, too, was trying those first probably round and a half in the clinch trying to get the takedown, and then couldn't get it, and then Ziam just kind of flipped it on him at one point and got the takedown, so it was nice for him.
Yeah, so getting back to the fight with both of them being over 6 feet tall, that kind of makes you feel like it was going to be at length.
Yeah, two tall, lanky guys.
Yeah, and it, I guess both guys kind of trained for what the other thought they were going to do. Both guys thought it was going to be not an at-length fight. It's kind of a grapple fest. They both wrestled.
A lot of clinch fighting in this fight.
Yeah, which I'll see. I like any kind of fight any day. It was still good. Farah Zayam got the win here.
Solid performance from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think the judges got it right.
In England against an English fighter, so it's definitely a
biased crowd for sure.
Exactly. So overall, solid win, solid fight.
Right. Lerone Murphy versus Josh Kulibau turned out to be a pretty exciting fight. It went to decision. You had a lot of strikes on either side. Total of 7 takedown attempts, which is pretty crazy. Most of those going to Lerone Murphy. He won the fight by decision, moved him to a perfect 13-0 on his career.
13-0-1.
13-0-1. I'm sorry, I always forget about the draw, or to even say the draw.
But honestly, a solid performance from Murphy. He got stronger as the fight went on. I had him winning the first 2 rounds 10-9, 10-9. I also had him winning the third round 10-9, but the judges two of the 3 judges had it 10-8 the last round. Judges were 30-26, 30-26, and 30-27 for Murphy. I had it 30-27 for Murphy. I thought it was a solid performance from him. And after the fight, he called out a top 15 opponent, which I think is right. Try to take that next step, try to establish yourself as a contender.
Yeah, 13-0. I mean, regardless, I think he's now 6-0-1 in the UFC.
Yeah, so it's time to make that next step.
Right. Even if it's premature a little bit, or not premature, but the guy you're trying to fight's a little premature. Regardless, top 15 opponent, I think he's due. I think give it to him. He showed that he can hang with somebody who's shown to be able to submit, knock out.
Yeah, it wasn't a crazy dominant win, but it was an obvious win for him where he controlled every round.
And look, not to say Josh Kulibau's on his way out. He came in 11-1. So he hasn't lost often. He only lost once by KO previous.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good early on. It was just as the fight went on, it seemed like Murphy kind of took control of the fight.
Yeah, I think the size advantage really helped out a good bit there.